Hello. So let me know if you can hear me. So I'm on OBS, so I should be able to kind of see what's going on. I should be able to see if the microphone's working or not. We'll see. So I don't know what's going on with Twitch. It's not working at all. So today is the 9th of February 2022. I want to say apologies for kind of not being here the last couple of weeks. I always got the flu. It was poorly, so I kind of did like the kind of like emergency broadcast Tuesday, and I had planned to be live Wednesday, but just gone. So just a quickie, but I wanted to kind of revisit HIV and AIDS because it's starting. Thanks, Margaret, lovely to see you. So it's starting to come back around. So we've had this week, last week, they've been talking about a new super strain of HIV, and everybody's having like HIV tests because, you know, that's what we do every single year. We do HIV tests just randomly. So you'll remember that, so Tori mentioned HIV and AIDS way back in March 2020. And when so we're going to watch a video in a second, but Moderna have mentioned before HIV and AIDS in their vaccines, and any time you tried to say this to anybody, they just weren't listening, and all of a sudden we're doing like HIV tests. All of the COVID restrictions are being lifted in the UK a month early. I mean, doesn't mean... Gonna say I don't think it doesn't mean we're winning stroke one. I think there's something else super nefarious going on, because none of the court cases that have been submitted have really kind of done anything useful. We also don't have, I don't know, I'm just a big cynic, right? 100% cynical. So I haven't been here for a while, so we've got the truckers knocking around, doing their thing, and the cabal is doing quite a lot, attempting to kind of make it descend into chaos. So well done to Canada for actually kind of holding their own and calling out the bullshit. So Canada have done very well at calling out the bullshit. Unfortunately, whatever's going on in the UK with our bloody idiots just don't seem to be able to figure out that things are a psyop. So if you haven't seen it, the most recent psyop is the fact that Bojo called out Starmer for the Jimmy Savile shit, and then there was all that, man, I didn't do it, you did it, I didn't do it, and then all of a sudden Starmer is being like harassed on his way to his car and surrounded by police. So he said before, you know, any time that Whitty's been surrounded by police, or, you know, there was Michael Gove who was supposedly surrounded by police walking through, that's not how MPs kind of roll around, right? There's them, potentially a couple of bad people, men or women, like telling them what to do, and that's it. They don't have security, they don't have police officers knocking around. So the fact that there was loads of coppers means that it was a setup. So the guy who did jump Whitty in the park did get sent down for 6 months though, so a bit dodgy. So there's also the Human Rights Act reforms that's coming up. That's on the beginning of March. Yesterday, the Houses of Parliament, one of the committees, the Human Rights Committee, I think, invited people to come in and tell them all about that. So I haven't had a chance to look at that yet. I'm hoping to have a kind of look through that over the weekend, and then I'll do a show on it next week on the Human Rights Act, and we will get a letter together, and we will get it sent off. So other places and organisations have already done kind of letters and stuff, and I've had a quick look through some of them. And they seem really kind of like blur and bland. They really do kind of seem bland, but you know. So I think we just hit them hard with the fact that we're not stupid and no, you can't do this. So tough. Oh, we just send an email, I think. We don't have to, it's not, the consultation form, it's not done properly, but so I haven't had a chance to kind of look through that yet. But I want to start by, for anybody who still has any doubt about the whole HIV AIDS thing, they told us a long time ago. So let me just start by turning this little video right up.
That holds it together and it allows it to stay 100% in that structure.
No. Hold on. So, no ifs, no buts. Oh, did it still not work? Oh, well that's stupid.
That holds it together and it allows it to stay 100% in that structure that's present on the surface of the virus.
The shape of the coronavirus spike protein before the virus meets our cells is what triggers the most protective antibody response. So Keith must make the spike protein in the lab, locking it into exactly the same shape by adding another protein that acts a bit like a clamp. And that protein is a tiny fragment of HIV.
Okay, well I hope you heard it the kind of third time round. I know it's only a teeny tiny clip. Yeah, okay, awesome. So basically, as we're freeze framed on the end, so it is attached to a HIV molecular clamp is how they attach this spike protein. So that's what they did. So that's Moderna. Let me just grab that link for you guys. And then we've got so something which HIV video. So that was on the BBC, right? So that was on the BBC. It's not like it was on some random backwards water site somewhere. It was on the BBC. They told everybody and nobody was fucking paying attention. And so you kind of think, right, that's kind of like your own fault really, that you didn't realise. So then I came across this little article. So so first of all, kind of show that everybody's kind of got, anybody who's had the Moderna definitely has had HIV in their vaccine. Anyone who had AstraZeneca potentially also has HIV because they've used adenovirus and they've used something 5, right? It's a specific adenovirus which has been used in past vaccine production and always increased the risk of HIV and increased. So that's what was going on in the Australia one, which is why they stopped the Australia one production, because people were testing, and they said false positives, right? People were testing for HIV. So the moment they're only talking about the increased risk of HIV, the super strains, and I personally believe they're going to link it all back to Oxford and AstraZeneca, potentially Johnson & Johnson again, to get those two out of the way. And for anybody who did only have AstraZeneca or did only have Johnson & Johnson, I think this is another way to kind of push for those to have, to get Pfizer and Moderna. So, because nobody's talking about Moderna, they're just talking about this HIV super strain and potentially, it's just, they're just lying, right? They're just lying. So, this little article, I don't see anybody talking about. So this kind of dropped on the 14th of January. So it's not old. It's not old. But so this is really interesting. I'm going to skip through bits. So it's like 20 pages, but it's lots of big images. But I'm going to skip through and kind of show you. This is, I mean, he's called it the smoking gun, right? It kind of is. It kind of is. So this says the SARS-CoV-2 genome. So this is the actual SARS-CoV-2 genome, not the Moderna vaccine. That comes to that in a second. Contains an unusual 19 nucleotide sequence found nowhere else in nature apart from Moderna patents submitted in 2018. And one of the other things the Moderna guy said live on TV was the fact that he had been working with Fauci since 2018 on a coronavirus vaccine. So that just kind of slipped out. Got that video somewhere, but I'm not sure where. I haven't got it like right here. For some reason that went up. Okay, so SARS-CoV-2 genome contains a 19 nucleotide sequence. There it is. Probability of sequence occurring by chance is less than 1 in a billion. There's no known virus including this sequence prior to SARS-CoV-2. Moderna has patents predating the pandemic that include this sequence. So according to extensive research conducted by Dr. Arkan Saeed, Moderna patented the unique sequence found in the coronavirus 2 years before the pandemic began, adding weight to the theory that COVID-19 is a man-made virus. Dr. Saeed writes, I've been meaning to write this blog forever, well at least since Prashant Padlan, a wonderful, honest and brave genomics scientist, raised the possibility back in February 2020 that the SARS-CoV-2 virus was man-made, and we've seen multiple confirmatory pieces that the virus was made in a lab, one of the better ones here on Zendo, and with its own cute video for non-Bayesian peeps here. As of writing, those links are still up, which at 12 months is pretty good going for any article that dares challenge the drivel propagandarised by our beloved free press sponsored by Pharma. So with regards to virus being made in a lab, what we know from the Senate from the Senate Intel Committee that Trump set up, March 2020, that it was a lab in the US working in tandem with a lab with Wuhan, right? So there's two of them. And actually together in 2015, 2017 is when they submitted loads of research, and they actually won awards. So in either 2015 or 2017, I can't remember which, they actually won an award for their coronavirus research and the coronavirus vaccine that they created because of their research. So as part of their research, they identified 600 bat coronaviruses, none of which were dangerous to humans. But they then, obviously, if you grow it in human, so if you take a virus, it's an animal virus, so it's kind of in animal cells. If you then put it inside human cells and culture it in human cells, it then takes on human DNA, and that's how you make it transfer, right? So it's not done because you walk past a bat and it spits on you. It's done because it's been genetically engineered in a lab. So it's a US and I mean it was funded by Fauci and the NIH, but it's actually it was being created inside US based labs as well as labs in Wuhan. So whether it was also being created in other places across the world, it probably was, right? Let's be honest. But those are the two that we have kind of evidence for. So anyway, BLAST is the NCBI/NIH repository for genomic and proteomic sequences, amongst other things. It's where all genome scientists around the world deposit their sequences if they make a discovery. Its main function is to allow comparison of gene sequences and discovery of sequences that match one that you might have come across in your experiment. What's a gene sequence? That's easy. It's a line of code made up of any combination of 4 letters in a sequence. Remember the film Gattaca? If you haven't watched it by now, you should, because it's yet another dystopian movie that's now too close to home. The movie's title is based on the 4 nucleotide bases, GATC, which make up the genetic code of every human's DNA. There are about 3 billion of them in each cell, making a code that is unique, resulting in you, a unique individual. The code pairs up so that the GC and AT always combine to make the double helix that you see in the picture, such that Gattaca would be paired with CTAATGT, the complement. The code is read in a specific direction, so Gattaca on one strand would be TGT-AATC on the other, the reverse complement. One of the good things about BLAST is that it doesn't care which version you give it, it will still point you to the correct gene. One other thing to note at this point is probabilities. You did this at school with tossing a coin, where the code is for H for heads, T for tails. What would be the probability of HHH? H, so is 1 in... 2, I don't know what that arrow means, 4 equals 1 over 16, right? The same applies for TTTT. The same applies for THTH or any specific sequence of coin tosses. Try it yourself if you don't believe me. Predict the sequence first and then see how many times you have to run it. Genetic code is essentially a 4-sided coin. So for any run of a specific sequence, e.g. GATC, the probability of getting that exact sequence is 1 in 4 over 4, or for any number n of nucleotides, NT or bases, the chances is 1 in 4 something n. I don't know what that little thing is. Math is not my strong suit, right? This is simplified because in some situations the probability of the next base being X depends on the surrounding bases. So BLAST has 2 sections, nucleotide, BLAST N, and protein, BLAST P. BLAST P deals with amino acid sequences in just the same way as nucleotide sequences, but there's a big difference because there are 20 amino acids rather than 4 nucleotides, and therefore even the short runs, for example QTNS equals GLU hyphen THR hyphen ASN hyphen SER, would carry a probability of somewhere around 1 in 20. Is that to the power 4? And that's how he's doing it because it's on a computer. Potentially to the power 4, right? Simplified, which is 1 in 160,000. The probability of a specific a 5 amino acid sequence arising by random chance on the same basis jumps to 1 in 3.2 million. So let's hit the protein blast button and away we go. And this is the screen you'll get that I'm going to walk you through. Okay, so this is the blast screen, and he's typing stuff in. In 1 you need to enter your amino acid sequence of interest. Fortunately you don't need to look hard for this because we're going to concentrate on only 4 sequences within the SARS-CoV-2 viral genome stroke proteome, and these are laid out for us in Pradhan's wonderful paper, Uncanny Similarity of Unique Inserts in the 2019 nCoV spike protein to HIV1, GP120 and GAG, published 31st of January 2020, a few days after the genome sequence was released. Okay, so this is important, right, because this is going right back to January 2020. Oh, boo, darn it. January 2020 is when people were already questioning SARS-CoV-2. So So with regards, and we are talking about AIDS and HIV if you're kind of wondering. Hey Penelope, yeah, Twitch is doing weird stuff. So what happened? So official narrative is back end of December, the World Health Organization had some chatter, people were kind of like sick, blah blah blah. I mean, that's not the truth, right? But this is the official narrative. So then there was a couple of scientists that worked 40 hours straight, and they released the genome sequence on the 11th of January. As in, the scientists gave to the WHO on the 11th of January, and it was a further, so around that time WHO was still saying it doesn't transmit between people, it's completely safe, you don't need to worry about it, we're keeping our eye on it, blah 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 blah. And it wasn't until the back end of January did they release it to the public. Right, this is important. So on the 11th of January, the WHO knew, or WHO were told, the official narrative is that it is an 80% genetic match to SARS-CoV, the original one. So 80% genetic match. So SARS-CoV, the original one, 40% of people who get infected end up in hospital, and of those 40, 75%-ish end up in ICU. So that is kind of, I mean, that's kind of, the injunction is still coming. It doesn't matter what they're doing with regards to restrictions and all that shit. We're still filing because we're priming for all the bullshit that's coming next. So we're still filing. So what that means is the World Health Organization knowingly and willingly allowed, so this is the official narrative that they've put out, right? They knowingly and willingly allowed a virus to spread throughout the world for 2 weeks that they were under the impression had an 80% similarity to SARS-CoV. Not only did the World Health Organization do that, everybody's government around the world further allowed that to circulate. So Trump was the only one who shut down, right? Everybody else just allowed it, and they said it was fine. So Trump is the only one who shut down. Everybody else knowingly allowed it to circulate. So the UK government knowingly allowed it to circulate until the 23rd of March, which is when they locked down. Now, it doesn't matter because, well, on the 19th of March is when the highly infectious, contagious disease organisation said it's not what we thought, i.e. they were under the impression it was kind of this 80% SARS-CoV, and they were like, it really isn't, we don't need to worry about it, like, everybody just carry on as normal, and 2 days later they kind of rammed through the coronavirus bill. But that's not the point, right? So the point that everybody's missing, and this is why I'm getting really pissed off, the point that everybody's missing is that all of the governments were told, so official narrative, and again, it doesn't matter whether the official narrative is bullshit, this is their narrative, right? So their words are the things that are going to hang them, metaphorically, or I don't know, treason. So they knowingly allowed a virus which had a 40% chance of putting people in hospital just to circulate. No interventions, no nothing, for 3 months. And then they decided to lock down, right? So I want you to kind of think about Trump's actions those first 3 months, when every single member of Congress was saying he was insane and they should just carry on doing stuff. The entire world, the World Health Organization, everybody was going nuts at Trump for shutting the borders, right, and saying no, you can't come in. So that proves that what Trump was doing was he was taking the information from everywhere else and being like, whoa, this is just fucking dangerous. Like, we are not having this circulate. We're not having this come here, right? Now, obviously, they were lying about the timeline because potentially it was released earlier on in 2019 around the military games, but also Tory had said that she's got the receipts with regards to it being crossing the border from Canada to the USA 2017. And so it's also important to remember that Canada, UK and America have the trilateral agreement, which was in place since World War II. So they have that trilateral biowarfare, chemical warfare agreement that was put in place. I mean, let's be honest, we don't think that's not put in place. We don't think that's kind of diminished, because the stuff that they test on the Canadians is stuff that they won't even test on the UK people and Americans. So the guys and girls in Canada get it worse, and then obviously, you know, in Africa and everywhere else they get it what they won't do on the Canadians. So that's how it kind of works across the board. So they're all kind of, just because it's being done America, China, it doesn't mean it's not being directed by the same old people. So we have to bear in mind that it's still being kind of directed by the same people, they're just doing it in a different kind of way. So yeah, I was ill December, January 2019, 2020. And they're not above, you know, so think about the things that they were willing to do on the British people. And I'm going to use the British people as us, because when you start looking back at the biowarfare stuff, right? So they were infecting British people unknowingly, you know, just like spraying shit everywhere in the 60s and 70s, and it got too hot in the UK. So it got too hot in the UK with Ronald Madelson's death. And so even the people from Porton Down, the people kind of running Porton Down, were, because it's kind of the tail end of the Cold War, and they're saying we can't really kind of use this whole Cold War thing anymore. We're not under threat. We can't get away with this anymore. So Parliament had covered up too many times. There was the people, and actually the press was still, there were members of the press who were still kind of going after the UK government. So they kind of shut things down in the UK. At the same time, the CIA in the USA was starting to get really kind of rampant and crazy, and they were floating ideas that was being shut down in Porton Down. And so then this, you know, members of the American community, there's called, you know, the crazy cabal community in the military and the CIA, were really adamant about doing lots and lots and lots of tests. So that we've got, this is kind of like when MK Ultra is kind of really kind of kicking off as well. So there's really interesting conversations where you see, so this is where BZ comes involved. So BZ, which Penelope shared a video about earlier, a couple of days ago, and I was like, oh my god, I hope that's not coming around. So BZ is a, so think of LSD, but a hell of a lot worse. And there were trials done early in the 60s in the UK using BZ, and they did it like once or twice and they just wouldn't touch it. So people came from America to Porton Down because we were leading the way. So I want you to like think of it like the UK was leading the way, because if we go back a little bit further, like we had half of Germany, right? So pretty much, so Russia had half of Germany, the UK had the other half of Germany. So we took the German experiments, and we took and divvied up the German researchers. So everybody talks about Project Paperclip being an American thing, right? But they were like British scientists from Germany who kind of took them and then like divvied them up, right? So they were in the UK universities as well, right? So we were doing a lot of the original kind of like nasty stuff. Things got too hot in the UK, so we started to move stuff to America, which is when they started doing it, you know, so the Tuskegee experiments and all of those things, like they kind of directed from the UK. Things started to get a bit hot in the USA, so we kind of went, you know, we were doing stuff over in Canada that we wouldn't do in the USA, we couldn't do in the UK. Started to close things down in the UK. So then the USA kind of, I'm going to say took charge, but they didn't really, because it's still directed from the UK, let's be honest. So then official narrative is the USA kind of went a bit like insane with the experiments that they wanted to do, and how do you do that not on American soil, because they keep getting caught out and the CIA has to keep being pulled in front of a congressional hearings. So so just the comparisons, the GCHQ, MI5 or MI6 ever had to explain why they were doing the shit they were doing, whereas the CIA has to, right? So at the same sort of time we've got all of the CIA creating the black, what's it called? Not black money. So they're creating their black ops, and the money from selling drugs, drug running. At the same time, they kind of buy Japan by paying off all of the Japanese politicians. We've also got the fact that they allowed the communists to take over China. So then you've got an in, right? So this is when you start to see the China and America financial relationships start to really kind of embed. So start to then, all they're doing is moving, right? So you're just moving where you're experimenting on people. So at the same time, we've also got what's going on in Africa. And in the 60s and 70s, we have Klaus Schwab. He is helping to selling nuclear weapons to South Africa as part of the apartheid stuff, so stirring up racial tensions in Africa, and again, so they're then experimenting directly on Africans and then Indians. So all they're doing, right, is they're just moving the experiments around the world when things get a bit too hot. But it kind of started with because the British Empire kind of owns like a lot of it, so they used to do tests on British people and then do the same exact tests in other countries. So they would do it in hot countries to see what the difference was. So they do it on white people versus black people. So I don't want, we have to be very careful about assuming that people in Africa had it worse all the time if they did the same shit to us, right? But just as it got hotter in our countries, they kind of moved it along. So with regards to Wuhan, China, and America kind of creating SARS-CoV-2, it doesn't mean that it wasn't coming from all over the place. And then if we go back far enough, the genome's been traced to the Common Cold Unit in Wiltshire in 1969, right? So it's B something or other, like a B, I can't remember what the other four letters are of the actual code, right? So it's been traced back to the Common Cold Unit. So it's one big freaking loop. So anybody who's kind of just pointing the fingers at China, or just pointing the fingers, I think then they haven't done even a little bit of research into bioweapons and the history of real bioweapons, or they're pushing a narrative, right? I stand by the entire cabal's working together to kill us all, right? And they are all over the world, right? That's it. It's us against them, and they just have been at this for a very long time. So okay. So the bit you need, so we're going back to the documente. The bit you need is in table 1, which I'm reposting here, and you'll see that I've posted the 6 amino acid sequence TNGTKR in the box, 1 marked in red on the blast piece screen. So this is here. That's that. Oh. So for step 2 in the BLAST P entry scheme, you need to add some filters. So the first filter is to restrict the search to viruses, or you can just enter 10239, which is the taxonomy ID. The reason for this is that there are gazillions of species on the planet, and BLAST P will search for all of them, but you really only want to know which virus this motif came from. You're not really interested if the motif is found in a squid, although it's possible that a squid also got it in on the action with the famous bat and pangolin tete-a-tete touted by the likes of Peter Zach and Dominic Dwyer. So Peter Daszak, I don't know how to say his name properly. He's the guy who was kind of running Eco Alliance, Eco Health Alliance. An Eco Health Alliance is the organisation that funded the kind of research with regards to the labs. So Trump does blame China. I think it is political reasons, and also you've got to. So even though he commissioned the report, right? So even though he commissioned the report, which come out, which is that whole hearing that was happened, and the report, it's still ongoing, which is amazing, which kind of landed September, October last year. Trump has to be really careful about what he says, right? He has to be really careful about what he says, because they just destroy him. So a lot of the time, I personally believe he knows, like, he's commissioned this report from this guy, like, he's going to know the results of it, right? I don't think he's stupid. So I just the stuff that Trump says I take with a pinch of salt, because anytime he says anything that's real, that could be beneficial, look what they did to him with hydroxychloroquine. So the second condition is to exclude all the references to SARS-CoV-2 that have now accumulated in the database, because those will all pop up, so thousands of them, and we're not interested. So once you've entered those, hit the blast button, and what do you get? You will get a list of candidates that you have close homology to that sequence. Because it's a very short sequence in the homology, which means likeness, it should be 100%. So the top of the page will be a summary of what you've requested, and the rest of the page is a list of the matching sequences. What you'll see immediately is near the top of the list are 2 synthetic viruses, which are a chimera of SARS-CoV-2 and another virus, which have appeared in the last 2 years by labs making more viruses, because we don't have enough. The next in the list is a whole bunch of references to HIV-1, so human immunodeficiency virus 1. So we've got measles up there, synthetic SARS-CoV-2 spike measles, and retrovirus A. Give me a sec. Was it Cardiff University in Wales that had the measles outbreaks? Yeah, Wales. Here we go. 2012, 2013. Oh, look, huge one in 2009. Okay, these are really important dates. So 2009 is swine flu pandemic. 2012, 2013, this is when SARS-CoV, so SARS-CoV originally was 2003, right? So look, 44%, 2003. And then 2012, 2013 is the year that we also had there was another bird flu kind of, so 2009 is swine flu, 2012, 2013 is like the bird flu stuff, or was it the other way around? So 2013 is in 2012, 2013 is specifically important because that is the year that China had an outbreak. I'm sure it's H1N1, and that's also the year that Craig Ventner and the dude he created the Ventnor machine with tested it for the first time. So basically they created it in 2012. China had a random outbreak of something, and within 24 hours, so they downloaded the sequence, and then they had a vaccine out, and they managed to vaccinate everybody and kind of stop that pandemic in its tracks. So it's very interesting that that also happens to be the measles spikes in Wales, which the fact that measles has now shown up at the top of this freaking sequence means that I think we're going to be able to track this back quite a lot further. But I mean, I'm not, this is not something we're going to do like live on this show. This is how you see, this is why it takes me a long time to write something, okay? Because I want to go back to where I first, so here's the kind of trick if you're doing kind of any research. So if I was going to start digging into this now, what I would do is I would start tracking back. I would then start going to the WHO and places like that and see what they were saying around this time on their bulletins. You'd look at scientific research papers around measles from this time, and it is where I would start looking. So we've got Funvax was knocking around 2005. 2008 as well is also, that's when Obama first was elected. 2012 was his second election. We also had the financial crash. So it's interesting when you start kind of catch these up. So foot and mouth, I think foot and mouth was earlier. UK foot and mouth outbreak. That was well before I went to uni. 2001. So that appears here. Yeah. But actually, look, we had one case and then we had 44 measles. Interesting. So then we've got, so this is also, and then we've got streptococcus. So that's strep throat, isn't it, I believe? So streptococcus, I'm not sure, but that's some kind of throat bacteria, I'm guessing. I don't know why the platforms are glitchy. I'm obviously talking about stuff they don't want us to talk about. So chances are I'm going to get kicked off YouTube again. So for those of you who have managed to join me on YouTube, well, it's probably going to be kicked off again. Nah, well. So you can click any of these and you'll be taken to the alignment screen where the alignments between the subject and query are shown, and you will see as you go down the page that the alignments only hold for HIV-1 until you start getting synthetic and hypothetical proteins until the next real virus in the list, which is HIV-2. Oh, before we move on from measles, you may or may not know, a couple of years ago now, maybe it was 2000, maybe it was before the pandemic, there was a guy in Germany who took a court case to the German court, and he would pay £100,000 if they could prove, basically if they could prove that measles was a real thing and it wasn't genetically engineered, and they couldn't prove it. So that was kind of groundbreaking that disappears, and I think a lot of people take on that much information, they forget the things that they've already heard, forget the things that they should have kind of squirreled away to kind of start making all of these connections. Measles is the first kind of vaccine that they really started, so after the whole smallpox farce where they tried to, you know, mandate vaccines, and after 50 years we kind of got it overturned and we had the conscientious objector clause kind of brought in 1889, and it was solidified 1907 with that Vaccine Act. After the World Wars is kind of when they started doing measles, and then they kind of pushed like all kids need to be done by measles vaccines. They kind of mandated it without having to mandate it. I mean, so it stands to reason that it's the same sort of sequence, because it's the same shit that they're creating, same shit, different year, right? And around that time in the mid 60s, so 1964, there's a World Health Organization document which literally states that we need to, the only way to ensure everyone's protected is if vaccines are mandated, and the only way to do this is by a mass propaganda campaign. And actually from the 1960s is when the World Health Organization was actively they actually had a propaganda, it was called propaganda arm. It was literally in the title of the sub-organisation was propaganda, and what they started doing was testing the effectiveness of propaganda in their late 60s, 70s with regards to the polio vaccine, with regards to HIV and AIDS over in Africa. It's when they discovered and realised that everybody had a radio, so if you started talking about things on the radio, they started testing the difference between scientists or family members, effectiveness of like guilt tripping people. So I really want you to kind of really hold on to the fact that this is like decades worth of research into manipulating people and trying to get people to do what they want, that they've been testing a lot, and you guys managed not to get caught up in it. Right, so really like pat yourselves on the back, guys. Like this is pretty handy. And if you consider what's just happened now compared to bird flu, to bird flu 2009, because it didn't work the same, right? It didn't work the same. Like, lots of people just ignored it. Like, if you didn't watch TV and you didn't read the newspapers, then you wouldn't really have found out about it, and you just ignored it. So at the time, right, bird flu was happening. Like, I was knocking on doors for a living. So whilst at uni, I was knocking on doors to earn money. I mean, I was really shit at it, so I didn't earn very much money. But I did lose quite a lot of weight. Like alcohol weight that I'd put on, but so it wasn't like nobody cared. And I came across a couple of doors where somebody, like, people had put like, I've got bird flu, don't enter. And I think out of trekking across Liverpool, because it was like the summer, so university had finished, so trekking across like different places in Liverpool, like 12-hour days, for a good few months, I think I saw like 3 or 4 people who had kind of bird flu. But I didn't have a TV, I didn't watch the news, and I didn't read newspapers. But that's it. They needed to get the news. They needed to get news in everybody's hands. Like, people might be watching TV, but people weren't really, like, people don't watch the news like they used to, right? People just didn't. So that's why technology was important. MMR woke me up to my vaxes after my daughter's reaction. Oh, I'm sorry, Butte. I think that's probably why we're all a little bit fucked. Eyes MMR. Okay, so one hit like this could be coincidental in the list. You'll see the E value, which is an indicator of the probability of finding matches like this and should be as close to 0 as possible. Here it's 282, which really just reflects the likelihood of finding matches on a short sequence. So here's the rub. Either these sequences are by chance going to match up with a whole bunch of other viruses because the E value is high, and therefore we should expect a lot of matches, or they're really unusual sequences that are specifically, preferentially or uniquely match with HIV-1. So how should we address this? Well, let's go to the next sequence, HKNNKS, which is another short sequence. So just to tidy up the screen, we can set a filter for short sequences to ensure that 100% of the sequence matches. Now remember, if the match to HIV-1 was random, we shouldn't really see a match on this list, because it should be bumped off by all the other hundreds of viruses that should be matching preferentially. Oops. So we have, look, so we still have measles on there. And we've also got other things on there as well. So I mean, I think this is the fact that bat coronavirus is number one, and then the second one it's got measles in, then bat, then we've got SARS, then we've got HIV. So note the other matches, bat RATG13, which didn't happen in this database until after people started questioning the origin of coronavirus, and is likely to be a synthetic sequence, and the same synthetic viruses that came after outbreak. So HIV-1 is the only match for both of these sequences. So let's go to sequence 3. This is a longer sequence. I wonder what virus or set of random viruses, because it's a random sequence, this will match to. So this measles is synthetic as well, by the way, so that's why he's not talking about measles. And this is all about HIV. So there we've got HIV-1 still there. So in this search, I've restricted the query coverage to 100% to get rid of the noise and the hypothetical proteins. All we're left with are the synthetic viruses from post-COVID and RATG13, also post-COVID. The only remaining virus in this list is, you guessed it, HIV-1. What are the odds that HIV-1 would pop in all three searches? And just to complete the quad trick, we need the last insert sequence identified in Pradham's paper, which is QTNS --PRRA. This is a really interesting sequence, which we'll come to later, because it's the furin cleavage site. Yeah, okay. That's in that one. I mean, I don't know that much, and I was like, wait a minute, they don't have one of those. Here we go. It's interesting because beta coronaviruses like this don't have a furin cleavage site. This is the only one. Surely this site couldn't have come from HIV-1. Well, it's not from the GP120 protein like the other three sequences. It's completely different and on a different location of the virus, which I'll show you soon, but for now let's run the BLAST P. This time it's a bit messier because there have been a bunch of hypothetical and synthetic proteins added since SARS-CoV-2 was released. But HIV-1 makes its appearance on the list again, and this time I'll just show the alignments between the GAG protein and the coronavirus. In this case, there's a deletion from the HIV-1 protein. Here we go. So this is the GAG partial. There and there. And that one. So we have 4 matches to HIV sequences with no other viruses appearing in all 4 match lists, barring synthetic ones created after the event. So what are the odds of that? Close to 0. But look at this. These were not just random sequences from HIV. In his paper, Pradhan went further and recreated the structure of the viruses with location of the 4 inserts. Lo and behold, these random inserts, all from HIV, are at binding sites of the coronavirus. What are the odds? So the coloured beads, here we go, so the inserts from HIV envelope protein are shown with coloured beads present at the binding site of the protein. So these are the addion bits. You can see them? The kind of like gloopy bits on the edges. Now, it's possible that you aren't convinced, despite the fact that the only virus to appear in match lists for all 4 insects from the hundreds of thousands of viruses around happens to be HIV-1, and HIV-1 should have no real chance of forming recombinant viruses with bat coronaviruses in nature, and no real chance of formatting 4 different recombinations that just happen to be at binding sites for the virus. But if that doesn't convince you, there's one special feature of insect form we need to look at. So now we're going back to nucleotides, the GACTs, that make up the sequence that code for the amino acids that we have so far been talking about. The original reference genome sequence for the coronavirus has a GenBank ID of NC_045512.1 and can be seen at link. You can play around with the genome sequence using BLAST-N by going to the page and selecting Run BLAST, which will take to a similar BLAST page as with proteins above, blah 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 blah. In a similar array, you would enter NC_045512.1 or the updated NC_045512.2 into the first box. Choose the option shown in the part mark 2, select Megablast in part 3 and click go. And you'll get a list of SARS-CoV genomes that match. Let me just copy this link and give you this link. HIV, COVID, nope, 1 minute, copy. I can't copy the top because the top happens to be, there we go, my, I downloaded it, so I download it all, there we go. So I have shared this multiple times in Telegram, but I'm pretty sure none of you guys actually got around to reading it as important. It's important with a T, because that's how you spell. Okay, it drives my mouth crackers, I keep missing my T's out. Okay, so click go, you get a list of SARS-CoV-2 genomes that match. I won't show you that screen because it's not important, but here's the screen you get if you were to look at 2 closely matched sequences, and you can click CDS feature to superimpose the amino acid sequence. You'll end up with pages of something that looks like this. So there's the 2 matches. In this particular section, you see it's a sequence of the spike protein, surface glycoprotein, and the nucleotides are labelled 23548.23771 of about 30,000 nucleotides or bases, i.e. GC80. And in actual fact, this RNA so should have a U in place of every T, but BLAST compensates for this and automatically for simplicity. So the smaller number is the number of amino acids in the protein sequence. So for each 3 nucleotides, the number goes up by 1 amino acid. The highlight is amino acid 677Q to 686S, giving 677 to 686 equals QTN SPRARS. Now, this is really interesting because not only have we seen that the QTNS section is derived from HIV, but there's something very special about the adjacent PRRAR because that is a furin cleavage site. And as we've seen, these don't exist in this type of SARS-like virus. It's an intersection to the viral genome, but nobody really knows how it got there, just like the HIV sequences, right? In order to see where it came from, we need to look outside the amino acid sequence and back to the genome sequence. The genome sequence that you can see for this amino acid sequence is which is 13 nucleotides coding for 10 amino acids. For this sequence to arise by chance would be an infinitesimally small number, so it has to have arisen from somewhere, i.e. from another virus, or else some of it must be synthetic, so let's blast it. And this time we exclude synthetic constructs from our search because we're looking for real viruses, not synthetic ones. And what do we get? The only... I can't see any. Is a mutant retrovirus, CoV2S1 gene. So now you're getting used to these displays. We can see that the only virus sequences in here are synthetic, and if you were to click on each of these, you'd find their registration date after February 2020. In other words, no virus in existence has this genetic sequence. Well, this is strange because in order for a virus to acquire a large sequence like this, it has to get it from another organism. It has no lab to manipulate gene sequences, neither do the bats, hence Jicky the lab mat's little joke. Oh, okay, the battery. Funny. So it's easy enough to change a single nucleotide, a single point mutation or SNP, or even insert or delete nucleotides less common, but to insert 20 or 30 nucleotides with a code that works, note that has to come from another virus or else it's been done in a lab. So where did this code come from? Well, it turns out that BLAST can tell us with some degree of certainty where some of this code, particularly the bit that codes for the PRAR section, the furin cleavage site, which is so unique, came from. The bit that we're interested in is the clue from Jicky. So let's blast it. Now what you see is the same misclassified SARS-CoV sequences in the first 9 hits, and then none of the remaining hits have 19 out of 19 matches. What this means is that there is no virus known to man that has this particular sequence in its genome prior to the discovery of SARS-CoV-2. So where on earth has it come from? For this you need to select a different database. So let's go back to the BLAST query scheme and change the database option to patent sequences. Remove all the exclusions and run the BLAST. So this is him checking the patents. The results here need a little bit of siphoning through because the top of the list include results from patents from this year. They are prefixed WO 2021 and WO 2020, so can be ignored. Just below those are the ones that we are interested in. I've just highlighted the top 3, but the whole list of many are patents owned by the same company. You just have to click on the accession number on the right. So all those 3. So let's do it and see which company that we all know that's a pharma company that's never produced a working drug yet and has a market cap of over 80 billion. There we go, Moderna Incorporated. So we've got modified polynucleotides for the production of oncology related proteins and peptides, and the patent was done 2nd of November 2017. But we've also got, this is 2012. It's like 2012, 2013. I mean, it's just fucking weird, right? That was the measles thing. So yes, that's right. Every single one of these patents that contains a 19 nucleotide sequence for which the probability of occurring by random chance is less than 1 in a billion is from Moderna. So he's put, note the sequence is actually the reverse complement sequence, but this is likely a direct result of the cell lines that occurred in MSH3, mutated cell lines designed for developing cancer vaccines. So that cell line, right, so this is, I'm going to just pause for a sec. So I've said this a few times. So when they were first messing around with HIV, because HIV, when they were kind of souping it up to, they were trying to make an AIDS, right? So we then go back to the 60s, 70s again. They were creating cancer viruses and trying to capitalise. It's about money, right? So if you create a cancer virus and you can, so they figured out a few viruses that do cause cancer, and they were trying to kind of make more and capitalise on it. So if you can create viruses, then you can, you know, sell cures, right? That's what they were doing. And what they wanted to do, basically, because cancer wasn't killing people fast enough, we have the capabilities of killing cancer ourselves, right? It's what our body does. So our cells go haywire and our immune system kicks in and it kind of sorts it out. And so what they needed to do was find a way to destroy the immune system whilst also giving people cancer, right? That's the plan. Is if you can destroy the immune system, it can't fend off the cancer, therefore they're going to have to buy the stuff, right? Remember, it's all about money. So this is where we go, we have the conversation, the congressional hearing where they're talking about 10 million to produce an AIDS-like virus. I mean, they don't use the words, you know, that's whole conversation, and AIDS comes out and they say 5 to 10 years we can create something that is going to destroy people's immune systems using the viruses that we already have. The problem was when they were creating AIDS initially, because it destroys the immune system, is the fact that they were trying to culture it, and while they were culturing it, it was destroying the cells. So if you're messing around in the lab, they were going home of a night time, they were coming back in the morning, and then there's no cell culture left. So it was killing, the virus was killing the cells, so they were unable to actually kind of use it. So what did they do? Well, at the same time, they kind of were infecting people with cancer. They created this mutant strain in this poor lady that I can't remember her name, and her mutant strain of cancer was so aggressive, hyper aggressive, that it was never going to be stopped. So they then used her hyper aggressive cancer strain as the thing that they then grow the kind of AIDS culture virus in. So when they kind of tested all of the human cultures a few years ago, and a couple of few years ago rather than a while ago, they discovered that 75% of all of the human cultures across the world, which are used to grow, you know, cures, vaccines, all of that kind of experimentation stuff they do, is contaminated with this MSH3 mutated cell lines, right? So no matter what medicine you're having right now, it is being grown, tested, and fiddled around with in human culture cells, which have in it, in the kind of the cellular strands, the DNA, they have in it this like hyper aggressive form of cancer. So it had to be there in order to mess around with to create the AIDS virus. So it had to be there in the Moderna vaccine in order to ensure that when you're jabbing people, the HIV/AIDS that they're throwing in there, and so HIV and AIDS are two different things, but you know they're messing around with it. So so they had to make sure that it was still going to be stable. They had to make sure that it was there, right? So that was guaranteed. And so when you look at 1980s, the AIDS kind of HIV/AIDS trajectory, is there are specific cancers that would surface in people who has HIV. So it was specifically designed, right? This is specifically designed to destroy your immune system while fucking up your cells so much. The only way you can function is by getting a pill, getting whatever they want to give you, and avoiding everybody, because you die from a cold. So really kind of going after us. So Made in USA says it's a little bit too late for this. So we're revisiting it. This is like multiple conversations we've had on HIV and AIDS. So you've kind of joined in the middle. So this was kind of first conversation we had about HIV and AIDS being in the vax was end of 2020. But I keep getting deleted, so here we are. We're doing it again because now people are listening and paying attention. So we're revisiting it, and we're also giving people research and evidence. Yeah, back end of 2020 we were talking about AIDS in the viruses. Who knew? February 2022, still talking about it. Okay. So the Moderna patent was actually for a mutated MSH3 gene for this purpose. Also, so the other thing that we have to remember was they came out with the vaccines mid 2020, and by the beginning of 2021, Moderna were already saying that they were going to do mRNA technology for cancer, for cancer treatment, for HIV treatment, and for the life of me, I can't remember the third one. I mean, was it diabetes or something like that? I can't remember, right? So by January, they were already saying that, and even the controlled opposition press didn't mention that until the end of 2021. I don't think it was shingles, it was definitely 3 big ones. So cancer, HIV, and I'm pretty sure it's either diabetes or I've been trying to find the original article, but it was, you know, if you think about how many drops they throw in Telegram on a day, that would, I'm pretty sure that's like right back in January last year where that kind of dropped that. But so of course they were going to come out with cancer and HIV because they're using cancer cultured cells. They've put, it is diabetes, yeah, okay, so I thought it might be diabetes. Also use it for, so HIV's in there. So when we look at the advances in CRISPR tech, okay, so we're going to talk about CRISPR tech. So back in the day, CRISPR, the way that CRISPR worked is you would kind of have to cut and splice cells. So you would cut and splice DNA, to take out the bits that you didn't want and insert the bits that you did want. Lots of advancements, so they don't actually need to cut and splice anything. What they can do is silence genes, right? So you can silence a gene and enhance and turn, so you can turn off and turn on other genes. So epigenetics is phenomenal when you look into epigenetics, because you can literally turn on and off your genes by the environment, right? So there's about, I think it's 78 different genes that we can turn off and on just by thinking and knowing about them. So I want you to specifically think about your pain receptors, right? So when you go into shock is you kind of turn your pain receptors off, and the age-old adage, you know, stop thinking about the thing that hurts and it stops hurting. So you can actually turn on and off your pain receptors. There's lots of other parts of your genes you get turned on and off by the environment as well. So they discovered how to just silence a gene, turn some off and turn some on. And in 2019, they discovered a way to turn off the gene that's responsible, or they believe might be responsible for dementia. And when we look at SARS-CoV-2, it is particularly attached or causes more harm, or most likely to cause harm, in old people or elderly who also have dementia, right? So the question is, why didn't they inject people with something to turn off this specific dementia gene, and then all of those people would have survived, right? They didn't need a COVID jab, you just need to turn off the dementia gene. So dementia, maybe it's dementia, because that was the other thing that is now coming off the back of the vaccines. It definitely began with a D, it's probably dementia. So because, you know, it's making the prion diseases, which, you know, does link to, you know, we're talking about foot and mouth earlier, but dementia, right? So we also had, you know, Joe Biden, who rushed through, was talking about dementia, and the FDA approved dementia medication, which is harmful, that loads of doctors supposedly resigned over, but we couldn't ever find those doctors actually resigned, so it's probably dementia. So anything that's kind of coming off the back of these vaccines, there was 3 mRNA vaccines that they announced mid-January 2021, and everybody was kind of radio silent until the end of 2021. September time, when people all of a sudden started talking about cancer. So this is why I was getting really frustrated when everybody wasn't talking about cancer, they weren't talking about HIV, they weren't talking about AIDS, because this information was out there all the time. All the time. And for anybody who's a medical professional, I've been learning all this on the go, right? Anybody who's a doctor or a nurse or medical professional or been in this fight for ages, like, this is something that you would have known. Like, this goes hand in hand. I mean, you only need to read the real good AIDS book, the AIDS and Ebola, and obviously we've got Ebola coming up. So Vicky's husband's developed a way to turn off his hearing when he starts talking about COVID. Yeah. I think Matt's got special hearing suppression genes. So, in order for that sequence to have arisen in that virus, the virus which was manufactured with its HIV insert had to have been infected into patented cell lines supplied by Moderna that had the unique sequence not seen in any other virus. So in theory, nothing's impossible in science, medicine or genomics. A SARS virus emerging naturally with 3 HIV inserts at its binding sites and also containing a furin cleavage site that doesn't exist in nature but does exist in a Moderna patent. This seriously crazy talk doesn't exist. A flying pink elephant would be 1,000,000 times more likely. Okay, so yes, they did know. They all knew. Now, I want to talk about what we can do for those of you who, you know, because so people are talking about hydroxychloroquine you can't get, people are talking about ivermectin you can't get, the hospitals are trying to kill everybody with remdesivir. And remdesivir is interesting because if you go back early enough, so the original WHO documents from January 2020 is when so the WHO literally says you must not use hydroxychloroquine, you must not use chloroquine, they don't work, right? That's the before it was circulating on the 20th of January, so they did, they've got the 20th of January as their draft document, and they did a big meeting thing the end of January. So in their 20th of January draft document, before anybody knew, so it's only just something of concern by then, they're already saying hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine doesn't work. Under no uncertain terms is anybody to use it. We need to use remdesivir. Then we've got a few months later and people are using remdesivir and it's killing people. So then everyone stops using remdesivir. And then we fast forward 12 months and everybody's using remdesivir again. So you can actually track, and in the NHS you can track when the NICE guidelines are like, you just can't fucking use this shit because it is killing people. It doesn't work and it's killing people. And then if you get like the newer updates, it's saying, yeah, it's amazing. So you can kind of see all that. But so the reason why I'm going to talk about so for those of you who are in Telegram, like I've shared this before, again, I did share this the other day, but I just want to share it with everybody who's kind of joining, who's not on Telegram. So this is back in, when did this come out? Have we got a date? Okay, so this was first published June 2020, right? So they are using, so it's necessary to find possible, easy, accessible therapeutic agents until an effective vaccine is created, right? So let's just do some zooming. This is what they're doing. So they're testing loads of stuff. And what they're doing is they are testing using docking reference molecules, okay? So they're using testing against hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir and ivermectin, and they say, yep, they're all great. However, when we get to the actual conclusions, right? The best therapeutic drugs from our studies are atavaquone, why did I say that? Quinine, right? So you can get that if so that goes against pneumonia. So that's a type of quinine. The other thing is fexofenadine acetate, also known as Allegra in the USA. Right, this is a hay fever tablet, right? This is hay fever. This is this is what I have here for my allergies. I actually have fexofenadine hydrochloride, so I have like chlorine in there as well, hydrochloride. So fexofenadine, right? Now, what's interesting about fexofenadine is that they say so quinine, fexofenadine, justicin D. Let's find out what all of these are. So I can tell you what all of these are. I think that's a specific medication. Yeah. So that must be a specific one. Biasolin. Just to see if any of these are over the counter. A flavonoid. Okay, so herb. Here we go. So this is a herb. So biasolin is the primary ingredient in known as scute. Biasolin has become the most popular nucleotide of our era. So you can get that. It's a herb. You can go to a herbalist and you can get that over the counter, kind of, I guess. We also have why are they all got such stupid names? Glyceritic acid. Is in licorice. There we go. Component of licorice. Ooh, I love a bit of licorice. And here we go. Ethimidinol. Okay, so that's the only one that kind of comes up with COVID. Okay, so that's an antihistamine. Okay. So they've put, based on their docking score, interaction studies and their present applications, those are the best therapeutics. Okay, so we've got licorice, quinine, so you can like fever tree. So we've got fever tree, tonic water, licorice, there's the herbal supplement and an antihistamine, so hay fever, fexofenadine, right? So fexofenadine is really interesting. I did quite a bit of investigation to fexofenadine because that's the one that I have, and I'm like, I've already got this one, let's just go with this one. So it actually inhibits the spike protein from actually attaching. So it blocks the spike protein from attaching to your system. But also it is the safest, most effective hay fever anti-allergy tablet out there, It is also safe in pregnancy, children under 6 months old, and it's the one that isn't available over the counter. So the ones that are available over the counter are linked with heart attacks, are linked with passing the blood-brain barrier, so they cause like problems with your brain. They're the ones that you're just picking up in, you know, in the pharmaceutical companies, right? But you know, Boots and Superdrug and places like that. The ones you have to go to the doctor for are the ones that are safest. Now, if you are pregnant, what they will do is they will tell you you must not take your antihistamines. Like, do not listen to them. Do not listen to them. And if you are pregnant and you need or want antihistamines, let me know, because I've got like articles that explicitly state how safe it is. So they tested 200,000 people. They just did this mass study in 2020. 200,000 people on all the different types of antihistamine, and fexofenazine hydrochloride are the ones that have the most scientific benefit, right? So, but I wanted to just kind of talk about things that you can get hold of. So a lot of you might not be able to get to fexofenazine, but you can have licorice and you can get some quinine, right? So why would you want zinc? So Penelope's put zinc. So zinc's important because that stops the virus reproducing, right? So you've got to think about all of those different multifaceted attack, if you like. So if you can get fexofenazine hay fever tablets, is you're going to stop the S protein binding. If, however, it has bound, or you're suffering the effects, or you keep ending up in places with vaxxed people, you want to make sure that you're getting enough zinc, because zinc will stop the virus replicating inside your cells. So if you because it is in the water, right? It's in the water because people have been taking the AstraZeneca one, which shows up in even once water's been through the treatment. So we're all getting it, whether we're being vaxxed or not, right? And there's also, it's being shed using the nanoparticles. So we're all, regardless of whether we're being vaxxed or not, we're all kind of like ending up feeling the effects. And some of the effects will be psychological, and others will be because we're kind of, it's short term. It will be short term physiological effects, then long term psychological effects. So vitamin D is important. We also need to make sure that you're getting cholesterol. Now, cholesterol's really important for the immune system, and it's something that people also don't talk about. So if you are somebody who is having like low cholesterol based stuff, because they're saying your cholesterol's high, I'm going to probably jump out on a limb and say it probably isn't, because a lot of the tests they do are bullshit. So what they've been doing is removing cholesterol from a lot of, so if you look at what's it called, that fake meat stuff that Gates is producing, this, and a lot of the fake food, so a lot of the vegan foods is like no cholesterol. That's another way to completely disseminate the immune system. So the other thing you need to do is you need to make sure you're turning your immune system on. So there's no point taking all of this stuff if you're not turning your immune system on. So you need fat in your diet. Because that's, vitamins and minerals are fat soluble, which means they dissolve in the fat, so your body needs the fat. And a lot of us have been sat down for the last couple of years probably thinking we've got lots of butter. Yes, you do need to have real butter. So if you are having, so I had pasta, so just pasta with like frozen veg earlier on today, and I just like threw a knob of butter on it. So if you get whatever veg you're having, throw butter on it. So you can't take, so lots of people are vitamin deficient even while taking supplements because they're not getting the fat in their diet, which enables them to kind of rip the vitamins and minerals out of the supplements and shove them in your cells, right? So there's a really cool interplay between water and fat. So when you're drinking the water, your fat's turned on. When you're not drinking the when you're not drinking water, your fat's kind of doing its thing. When you're drinking water, your water's doing its thing. So you need to kind of drink little and often throughout the day to kind of keep those two kind of working in tandem. But you need to turn your immune system on. So how do you turn your immune system on? You need to make sure you've got serotonin in your system, right? So for those of you who kind of don't do any kind of exercise, you're probably going to hate me right now, but this is important. The more muscle you have, the less cortisol you have in your system, and if you do have cortisol triggered, you will kind of get rid of it faster when you've got cortisol. So that's stress. This is why the fear is so important to them. If you are in a fear state, is your immune system shuts down, right? So you have to do whatever you can. Every time I tell you, like, to do things that make you feel good, to do things that flood your body full of serotonin, and I keep telling you, like, I'm trying to save your life. Like, that is how you save your life. Like, you have to turn your immune system on and turn your digestive system on. Like, they turn off if you are in a fear state, right? This is why if you have like lots of anxiety, you get like IBS. Is a physiological symptom of the fact that you've just shut down your system. So genuinely do things that make you feel good. You need to flood your body full of serotonin. The more serotonin you have, then like you turning your immune system on. So it's all of those things together that need to kind of be working together. So whether you're like doing jigsaws or bird watching or whatever it is, so you need to do things that bring you joy, make you feel awesome, and you also need to you need to be moving, you need to be building muscle, because muscle is the thing. And again, so when it comes to muscle as well, you've got the interplay between it's when it kind of controls your insulin, so that's also important because you then don't get all the kind of like highs and lows from sugar. Absolutely eat a cookie if it makes you feel good. It's full of fat. If it's homemade, like if it's real, right? If it's real, eat, like, this is, you know, cook homemade food. And you, when you're making like biscuits and cakes and you're pouring the sugar in, you're like, oh my god, there's so much sugar. Like, if you cut out all shop bought cakes and then eat one, you can taste the sugar. It's disgusting. So the other thing is, please don't ever juice. Like, don't you know, lots of people will be like, I need to get my fruit and vegetables, so I'm going to juice, right? When you juice something, is you destroy the natural fibre, and you also get the sugar being broken down outside of your body. So it's already been broken down, it's been broken down outside of your body, and you get like higher spikes. Sometimes your body reacts to it, so when your body doesn't recognize something, it actually puts like a layer of fat around it to kind of protect you, and it just kind of like, we have like these little fat deposits of all of these like chemical shit that it doesn't understand. So when you juice, you destroy the natural food, right? It's if you want an apple, like, eat the fucking apple. Like, cut it, absolutely. If you're not somebody who's got like strong teeth, gut it, but juicing it destroys it, right? So you need the fibre, we need all of the things in its entirety. You need to exercise and you need to sleep. Like, diet, sleep and exercise are the fundamentals of like happy, healthy humans. Doing things that make you feel awesome turns your immune system on. So this is the other thing people they don't talk about. Like, there's no point taking vitamin D if your immune system's turned off, right? Because you're just going to shit it out. Like, quite literally, you'll just shit it out. So the other thing, if you are taking supplements, be careful, because you can do a lot of harm in the short term if you take too much. So it takes a while for kind of vitamin deficiencies and mineral deficiencies to show up, but actually if you have too much too quickly, is you can cause yourself harm. Yeah, fat is amazing. Butter, like, we have real butter. So if you're using margarine, you need to get rid of that shit. You need like real butter. And if you're using oil, if you're cooking, yeah, okay, so here's the other thing. If you're cooking, and you're like, so a fry up, good food, right? But you want to be using lard or butter. If you're using like vegetable oils, sunflower oils, they are dangerous. So they have really low smoke points, which means that the oil actually goes toxic stroke rancid at a really kind of low heat. And so if you're cooking with that shit, is you are just turning your food toxic. So, you know, what you're cooking your food in is important. So, you know, if you're having fried food, like there's nothing wrong with fried food as long as it's fried in something which has a high smoke point. So butter, lard is better. Coconut oil I think has quite a high smoke point, but then everything's going to taste of coconut, so we just do it in fat. So even if you're doing chips in the oven, right, throw a bit of lard on there. So this is not vegan. If you're vegan, you're going to probably cause yourself havoc. But most importantly, out of all of it, is like clean water. So if you haven't got around to getting a distiller yet, there was a warning on UK water. So 2 weeks ago, people in Bristol, I believe, were being told to boil their water. Then there was also there was another toxic water alert yesterday or today. I think it was maybe yesterday. So if you aren't distilling your water yet, I highly recommend it. If you don't have a water distiller, then you can just order distilled water online, right? So you want to get yourself some water. Why is it important? Because if you're drinking toxic water and it's inside, so it's the water inside your cells where all the chemical reactions happen. So if you've got toxic water, you've got toxic cells, right? So all of these things together, and people only really talk about like one teeny tiny bit, but the thing that's going to make you guys feel better the fastest, the easiest way, is just like start doing shit that makes you feel awesome. Like if you speak to any of my clients, they will tell you that I force them to go get hobbies. You have to go do things that make you feel good. What are your hobbies? And actually I'm quite jealous because one of my clients came back the other day and they were like, finally, I finally went and got a hobby. Guess what it is? They're doing like VR based zombie hunting. So you can go to Birmingham, pay 30 quid, you put like a big VR pack on, go in with your mates, you get like a pretend gun, and you literally go zombie hunting. Now, that was quite interesting because I was like, one, that sounds like fun, two, I might need to get some zombie hunting target practice in. Because who knows what's going to happen next. That they are causing havoc, right? They are causing havoc with us. So interesting, zombie hunting. But yeah, go and do something that brings you joy, like every single day, multiple times a day, right? If you ever feel yourself feeling like really depressed or frustrated or angry or annoyed or whatever those things, like it's just an emotional reaction to what's going on, right? It's just an emotional reaction to what's going on. So all you got to do is shift your emotions. How do you do that? You go do something that makes you feel good. You won't feel good by not doing things that, like, just by sitting there. That's not how it works. Unless you've kind of moved through all of your shit, and most people haven't. And I have moved through a lot of my crap, and I still purposely do things every single day that makes me feel good, otherwise I won't. So if you are struggling... Oh, I also said I would do a live EFT. So while we'll finish off, I've got, so talking about cakes, I have got a apple turnover and one of those like big fat custard things, you know, like custard slicey things in the fridge for when we finish, because I want cake today. So I will probably not sleep because I will be getting a sugar spike in about an hour and a half, but fuck it, right? You only live once. So, yeah, cake. I mean, you don't get this figure when I eat cake. Okay, so one of the other things that I've said multiple times before is one of the really powerful ways to help yourself is if you find yourself getting pissed off, stressed out, fucked off, right? So what we usually do is we just like shove that shit down, and then we kind of like keep calm and carry on. What happens is that comes back to bite you in the ass psychologically, but also you're not actually releasing it from yourselves, you're just kind of like shoving it down. This is why you end up being that person who is literally crying because they spilt milk on the kitchen floor, right? And I've been in that position where I've spilt milk and I've been crying my eyes out. It's not the milk, it's like the bucket load of shit that you've been experiencing. So the trick, it's not a trick, what you want to be doing is identifying anytime you kind of like experience any kind of negative emotion, like anger, frustration, like anything that's negative. You want to take the opportunity, take a deep breath, do EFT, and I'm going to show you EFT in a second, and then as soon as you've done your EFT, the next thing you want to do is something that makes you feel awesome, and then carry on with your day. And it can be as quick as 10 minutes, right? And if you're having a really stressful time right now, you're going to find yourself doing this a lot. But I want you to really understand, if you don't do this, is you will just get ill. You will get physiologically ill, and then you will get psychologically ill, and you will just, like, you start killing yourself by not, like, so just, if you want to live, this is fundamental. So I only recommend everybody learn EFT from the person who created it. If you're going to do anything, you've got to go to the people who kind of started it, right? There's lots of people who do EFT, and it's also called tapping, but here's the truth, right? People have done it to make money. Some of it's really shit, some of it's really dangerous, and some of it has been causing people to like commit suicide, like have like major suicidal thoughts. And some of my clients who've done EFT before, they've shown me what they've done, and I've been horrified. So I understand that. So this is the guy who created it. If you want to kind of go there afterwards, I highly recommend it. But I mentioned it the other day, and I mentioned it earlier. And so I said I'd do a quick EFT session, and so we can do that together before we go off. Right, it's really simple. You're gonna look like a fucking idiot while doing it. I promise you, out of all of my years of kind of investigating what helps relieve emotional trauma, and it actually works against physiological trauma. It's like, because nobody leaves their brain at home, right? Your brain, body, psychology, like all of it's linked together, right? Psychology, spirituality, it's all one person, just one fucking person. So if you've got a headache, you can use it. If you've got an arm ache, you can use it. If you're having some anxiety, panic attack, you can use it. I've used it to overcome PTSD myself. And lots of my lovely clients have used it for all of their different issues. So it works on people who have got very, very high level complicated mental health problems. At the time they start using it, and they kind of don't by the time they kind of use this, and all of those other things that we've already been talking about, like diet, sleep, exercise, hobbies, fun. And then EFT is like one of the key tools to kind of enable you to move through your shit. So first thing you have to do, so if you've just, maybe you've jumped onto Twitter and somebody's trolling you, right? And instantly you feel that negative emotion. Like, take that as a nudge from the universe to clear through your shit, right? Don't ignore it. If you ignore it, it will come back to bite you in the ass. This is my advice. You have free will, you can choose what the fuck you want to do with your life, but my advice is take those little nudges. So if you are in the moment, you won't need to do the setup phrase, okay? Because you're already in that emotional state. However, if you've got stuff that you want to work through, you will need to first direct your brain and your body to what you're kind of focusing on. So you will need to do the setup phrase. So we're gonna do the setup phrase together, but I want you to remember that if you have just been triggered, you don't need to do it. You're already there, so you can skip this first little bit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna tap through 8 different points on our physical body, and while we're tapping each space, we're going to just say stuff that's going on our mind, that's pissing us off, and you must use the words as they come from your mind. So it's really important that you actually use the words that you are saying inside your mind. It doesn't work if you're following somebody else's script, because they're not you. They haven't catalogued things together. They don't feel emotions the same way you feel emotions. What I mean by that is my happy might feel very different to your happy, because our emotions are they're told to us by an outsider when we express a physical something or other. So I might smile and somebody tells me that I must be happy, but actually I'm smiling because I've stubbed my toe, right? So we can have we can have confused emotions because somebody else is labeling it for us, right, when we're kids. So it's got to be your words, it's got to be your emotions. Doesn't matter what comes out, like even if you think it sounds crazy, if your brain has joined it together, your brain has joined it together. So you just keep going round and round and round and round and round and round and round until you kind of can't think of anything else. You take a deep breath, and then we go round again with some really good happy stuff. So I do recommend getting yourself some affirmations. And for those of you who are in Telegram, we've got affies and affirmations that get dropped every morning, Monday to Saturday, so you can like take all them. So there's 90. I mean, I don't think I've dropped all 90. It's just whatever, whichever one just randomly pops up. So if you're not in Telegram, don't worry about it. Just jump online and get some affirmations. I recommend reading through the affirmations first, right? So if you're reading an affirmation and you get like your brain's pushing like the bullshit button and you want to vomit, that is just way too far from where you are. Like, you don't want to do that one. You want a little bit of resistance, like a little bit of like, oh, I'm not sure whether I feel that, but you don't want one that's like way ahead of you. And affirmations are simply positive statements about who you want to be, where you want to go. And then we take another deep breath, and then your job is to go and do something fun. So to go and do something for a couple of minutes. So I do recommend like colouring it, and like having colouring in books. And I say that, right, this is like my office desk, right? So I have a colouring in book. This is my office. There are pencils and pens, and I have like card making shit. I've been making birthday cards. Like, you got to do stuff that makes you feel good, right? So I don't just say this stuff, I do this stuff. And I also have like my diffuser going as well, because I mean, and for those of you who aren't in Telegram, hey Helen, thanks, aren't in Telegram, the other thing I recommend is you have like 432 hertz music or 528 hertz, either of those two, running non-stop, right? All of these things are going to be like triggering your cells. That's the plan, is get your cells on board with where you want to go, and then you can just stay feeling awesome, and we can just ride this entire cabal shitstorm, right? The more you feel good, the more you make good choices, and the more you will be able to spot psyops, because you'll be like, that just feels like bullshit, right? So I'll do some EFT. What am I? Okay, well, I'll do it. I'm going to do it on. Okay, let's do it on. This will be one that we can all do together, right? But actually, if the words I'm saying don't kind of ring true, just use your own words, right? We're all kind of focused on the same thing, because we're probably all feeling this way, or a similar way. So I'm just going to roll on my sleeve so I can like jab it, right? So the setup phrase, I'm going to just kind of talk you through the points first, and then we'll just go. So the setup point is kind of either one, so you can use either hand, right? And it's based on acupuncture. So acupuncture uses like 200 different points with teeny tiny thin needles. This uses 8 points, plus setup phrase. So this is our karate chop point, and you just kind of tap it using your hands. And if you use like your entirety of your fingers, it's like a teeny tiny little point you have to hit, but you're going to guarantee to hit it, right? You tap there, we're going to say a phrase 3 times, and that's going to direct where we're going. Then we're going to tap on the middle of the head, and it's supposed to tap about 7 times, but if you just tap while you're talking, it is enough. Like, it's not you don't need to worry about counting, just tap and talk, tap and talk. Then we're going to tap on the inside of our eyebrows, right, so the actual bone bit on the inside of your eyebrows, and you can use one finger, I use two, I make my life easier. And then you want to do the bone on the outside of your eyebrows, and again the actual bone bit rather than like not here or your temples, it's got to be these points, right? And then under your eye, you can feel your bone there. I mean, it's a bit like, woo. So if you've got bags, you tap 3 bags, right? And then under your nose, then in the middle of under your chin, and then you've got, let me take this scarf off. Woo. Then you've got, your collarbone. So I want you to kind of come in from your collarbone, and it's there, the kind of like knobbly bit. And then under your arm, so round from your nipple round, right? So if you're wearing a bra, it's kind of like where your bra is. But if you're a guy and you're not got a bra on, or if you're a lady and you haven't got a bra on because you're swinging free and easy this evening, follow it round. It's round about there, right? So if you use like as much of your hat as possible, it makes it easier, right? So I just like tap everywhere. I don't want to get trapped in my scarf. That'll be embarrassing. Right, so I'm going to go slowly. I'm going to make sure I've got my affirmations open. Let me just open that screen. And I can come to that next. So I can just read through some of those and we can like finish on a high. So, key is, so when you're doing the setup phrase, is you can think about a specific event that's pissed you off or frustrated you or whatever. You can think about, like, so say if your shoulder's hurting, you can be or a person's annoyed you, you can be really specific about a place, a person or a thing, right? However, if you really specific, is it takes a really long time to move through your shit because you've then got to go through every single individual event in your life, right? However, because our brains actually catalogue all of our memories by emotion, i.e. every time you feel good, but actually you're also kind of pulling on the good feeling from all of your other like good feeling memories. If you focus on an emotion, like really focus on the emotion, you can clear through your shit really quickly. So anything that's fast, right? Ease and speed is the way that I work, right? Anything that's fast, that's going to give me results instantly, that's what I want, right? So focus on the emotion that you're feeling, and then you will start, because this is why you'll start like saying random stuff that just doesn't seem like it makes sense, is because you're focusing on the emotion and your brain's going to track into the emotion, and we're really gonna talk about it. You're just going to kind of go through. So even though, and I want you to follow along after me, and look, you're going to look like a dickhead, but you're going to feel amazing, right? So we're going to go, even though I feel angry at all the people who refuse to listen, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I feel angry at all the people who refuse to listen, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I feel angry at all the people who refuse to listen, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I want you to tune into the anger, think about the people maybe you've had conversations with, maybe family members, allow all of that to kind of come to the surface as we start tapping, right? We're going to really focus on how pissed off you feel with the idiots out there who are making it last longer, all of that, bring it all to the surface, and then we're going to tap through the points. So first on the top of our heads, like, I'm so fucked off that it's still dragging on, so fucked off. Okay, inside of your eyebrows, I can't believe that we are 2022 and we are still doing the COVID shit. Outside of the eyebrows, I'm so angry at my family because now they're going to be like really ill. so under the eyes, sorry, I'm so angry at my family for the things that they said about me. I'm so angry at the fucking politicians because they're cunts. Sorry guys, language. That was under the nose. Under the chin. I'm so pissed off with having to say the same thing over and over and over and over again. And your collarbone. I'm so angry at just the waste. The brain says random stuff, just go with it. Under your armpit. I'm so angry at God, the fucking dog walkers. Not having their dogs on the lead. Told you, this is what's going on in my mind right now. On top of your head. I'm so angry at the fucking Karens. Like, how dare they? Inside of the eyebrows. I'm so sad for all the kids who've been masked. Outside the eyebrows. It breaks my heart seeing the pain in all the children's eyes. Under the eyes. It really hurts, and it's gonna hurt when the parents realise what they've done. Under the nose, I'm really worried about what's going to happen 2022, 2023. Under the, on the chin, I'm really worried about how my family is going to take it when they realise. Collarbone. I'll say. I want everybody to hang. Ooh, I do. And I'm specifically thinking about doctors and lawyers and nurses right now. Like, they're who I'm angry with. And your armpit, I'm so angry with the people who took money, who kept money over people's lives. Top of the head, the people who... I'm so angry at all the people who chose themselves over anybody else. Okay. Take a deep breath, and you may need to, like if you're watching this on replay, you may need to carry on, right? So it's easier when you're kind of on your own and not trying to do it with other people, but that's kind of, you just keep going, right? So as you'll have heard, like my brain went to crazy places. I was talking about sadness and anger and frustration and being pissed off, and I even slipped out a few swear words, right? A few. It's me. There's going to be a few. So then kind of tune in to how, I mean, I do feel less angry. I do feel less angry. I probably need to do like quite a little bit more. But my brain's probably going to go to other places. So that's, you know, I do use EFT after some client sessions, right? And I get angry with things that have happened to my clients. So I've got to be very careful. I see, because your brain is tapping into your subconscious, it will start saying stuff. So I have to be very careful about what I say without thinking. Okay, so then we take a deep breath, and now we're going to tap in some affirmations. Okay, so let me just zoom in so I can see them. So next step, I need to zoom in because I need to see it bigger. How do I make it bigger? Zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, because you don't ever want to finish on the low, right? You want to tune in, and then you want to zoom in. Sorry, not zoom in. You want to... I found zoom. What happens when you do like two things at once? So you want to like take a deep breath, tune in, see how you're kind of feeling, and then you want to fly with all the good stuff. So we're going to start at the top of the head, and we're going to do a few rotations of some happy affirmations. We're going to do 10 for anxiety, 10 for anger, because we did anger, 10 for anxiety, 10 for anger, and 10 for confidence. Okay, so we start on the top of the head, and we're going to go top of the head, inside the eyebrows, outside the eyebrows, under the eye, under the nose, on the chin, collarbone, and under your armpit again. Same places, right? So all is well in my world, and I remain calm. And try and take a deep breath and really tune into these as we say these. Inside the eyebrows, I'm choosing to release my fears and invite joy into my life. Outside of the eyebrows, I'm connected and comfortable in all environments with all people. Under the eyes, I am exactly where I am right now because this is exactly where I am meant to be. I am in complete control of my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. Under chin, I am in control of my thoughts and my life. On your collarbone, I courageously overcome my fears and I am free. Under your arm, I love myself deeply and unconditionally. My thoughts are calm and under control. With every breath, I release the anxiety within me and I become more calm. I allow myself to acknowledge angry feelings without losing control. I always speak my mind rather than let frustrations build up. I always stay calm in difficult and frustrating situations. I'm able to diffuse my anger and channel it in a more productive way. I'm able to stay calm and detach from anger. I am calm, focused and relaxed. I am in complete control. I control my anger by expressing myself in a firm but positive manner. I have the power to regulate my emotions. I remain calm even when under immense stress. I am releasing negative thoughts. I am worthy of happiness. I am worthy of joy. am worthy of love. I attract only healthy relationships into my life. I do not need someone to feel complete. I have the ability to grow and change. I have the knowledge to succeed. I love that I am unique. I make sound decisions about my life. Take a deep breath and come back in the room. Okie dokie. So hopefully that's kind of helped you guys feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more relaxed. And it's such a gentle, be careful because you can bruise, right? You bruise right easily. So for those of you who are in Telegram, if you kind of go to the search bar and type affy or affirmation, because I write either affirmation or affy, is you'll get all the affirmations come up. Actually, I think that is one of my clients actually created a specific affy channel. Yeah, let me just how do I get the link? Okay, so there's a specific, so I drop all the affys, and then one of my clients, ex-clients, who kind of is still knocking around, still cool beansy with, set up a specific channel with them all in. So that link will just take you to the affy channel. If you do want to join me over on TG, then I should probably drop that as well. Let's just this is where I drop all the intel, right? If you want to find like 12 months. Wow, awesome, Penelope. Oh, see, affys. Penelope is an amazing lady. You all are. I love all of you, right? How do you spell Telegram? Oh no, here we go. I can't do it, right? I'm so calm, my brain's not working now. I'm so woo-woo. Right, so key, do lots of things that make you feel joy. You're gonna have to, right? So the HIV/AIDS shitstorm's just starting. Send everybody love. One of the most important phrases in the world is forgive them for they know not what they do. Like, it has gotten me out of lots. So that's not grammar. That's not grammatically correct, is it? It has enabled me. Let's use real sentences. It's enabled me to kind of like step back. And just allow other people to kind of deal with their own shit, right? You can't control anybody else, nor should you, the same as they can't control you, nor should they, right? So free will, we all have free will. We have free will choice to choose whether we're going to be turning on the ovens, whether we're going to be walking in the ovens, like it's up to them, right? We can share the information, but whether they choose to listen is up to them, right? So we're not brainwashing, forcing, anything like that. We will just keep sharing. And for those of you who are in Telegram, you'll know that if you do get trolled, ignore the trolls, right? Ignore the trolls, just keep sharing the information, because at some point the people who are trolling, if it's a real person rather than a bot, so sometimes it's a bot, right, so there's just no point responding, but if it's a real person, bear in mind they've probably been jabbed. They're about to find out that they have jabbed themselves with HIV because they weren't paying attention, or rather they were paying too much attention to the stuff that the government was, the bullshit that was being perpetuated. So they're just about to find out that they have not only given themselves HIV, also probably given themselves, definitely given themselves a high progressive strain of cancer, and also early onset dementia. So you've got all three things are coming for these people. So let's send them love. Do the EFT, do things that make you feel good, because, you know, we're all in it together. The people who don't know, they're good people too, right? The people who've knowingly sold us out, still not worth getting angry at them. We have to clear that through, because getting angry at them, being pissed off with them, is the same as having a poison cup, you drinking it and expecting them to die. Right, literally causes you physiological and psychological harm. Just let it go. Right, can't do anything about it, so just don't worry about it. And that's a lot. I know it's really easy to say that, but I've given you a few tools multiple times, right? So I keep getting deleted. So we say it again, over and over and over again. So multiple times I give you ways that you can really, really help yourself. You're the only person you're ever responsible for. And if everybody focused on feeling good and feeling awesome, we wouldn't have all this shit in the world. I know. They will go insane. And even the people who took money, so a lot of the doctors and nurses who kind of took money, thought about themselves, when they realise the extent of what they've done is, they're going to have their own, they're all going to have their own guilt to deal with. Like, we don't need to be that person pointing fingers, because who are we to judge, right? We just so happen to be individuals who've maybe experienced adverse events in our lives which made us immune to the bullshit, right? Like, this is their wake-up call. So we are having a great awakening. We spoke about 3D, 4D and all of that before. Like, it has to happen. It has to happen. And the only way the earth can be properly harvested is if everybody wakes up. How do we all wake up? The only way we wake up is by a negative catalyst. Like, in order for the entire world to wake up, there has to be a hell of a lot of negative catalysts. A hell of a lot. So you've had yours, you just have to watch it play out, right? They need theirs. We've got to step back and know that the disclosures are coming. They're coming. They can't happen overnight, no matter how much we want them to happen overnight. Imagine if you found out everything on a BBC bulletin, right? Like, we'd all be freaking insane. Like, the world would grind to a halt. We'd all be insane. Like, it can't happen like that. It has to happen slowly. So it is coming. But I think we're about to see, and I've been saying this, for those of you who are new here, I've been saying this since 2020, that when it starts to come out is when we will have the problems, the real problems. That's when, if riots are going to happen, civil unrest are going to happen, that's when it's going to happen. So, let's all go zombie VR hunting. Get a bit of practice in. And end the night on a snort. Yes. Thank you very much, my lovelies. Have yourselves a beautiful rest of your Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you. At the moment it's just Wednesdays while I kind of get the injunction finished, and then we kind of move into the human rights stuff. But so next week we will do human rights stuff. So have an amazing day. Love you all. Enjoy your cakes. Bye for now.